When we think of the terminal, we generally think everything has to be in text. But in reality, that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. For quite a while now, there has been a relatively popular project called Ueberzug, which you'll commonly see paired with a terminal file manager like Ranger, LF, VIFM, and things like that to do full, proper image previews directly in your terminal. I, DT, Luke, and many other people in the Linux space have done at least 1 or 2 videos on this project, and while not being a completely original concept, it is still a really cool idea. But if you saw the title of this video, you can probably guess where this is going. Ueberzug is now officially dead, which just by looking at the commit history isn't really too surprising. The last actual bit of development was done in May of 2021, and even back then, the development was kinda spotty, a little bit being done here and there, maybe a couple of months being taken off just to do nothing with the project. The dev clearly wanted to do other things in his life, and that's totally fine. What is kinda surprising though is why and how he went about closing down the project, because the project wasn't in like a maintenance state where no work needed to be done. What he did is pushed a couple of new commits, updating the README and deleting all of the source code related files. Now, unlike some of the crazy developers we've seen, he didn't go and delete the repo. So if you want to keep using Ueberzug, if you go back to the last development commit, everything is still going to be there, and also all of the tags still do exist. So you can jump back to any point that's available, the source code is already there packaged, and you're ready to go. But as for the latest version, he did leave an important message for why he stopped being involved. C by CB, I'm not really sure which one's correct, /Ueberzug is not maintained. I decided to archive all stuff related to this project due to people not being able to comprehend that publishing an open source project does not mean that a person is willing to spend their free time on the problems of others. Even after disabling issues and disabling pull requests, you still get harassed and insulted at some third-party sites. In my opinion, this is a really rude thing to do to a person which was kind enough to share their free time project in case someone else has a use for it. I recommend you to stop using this project. Which all of that sounds pretty bad. Now, I can't say the exact date when the issues were closed, but judging by the archives on the Wayback Machine, they were opened in December of 2020 and then closed in March of 2021. So clearly sometime between that period. And as for the issues themselves, the open issues aren't really anything that surprising. In fact, most of them are made by the developer himself. The ones besides the developer are just kind of basic stuff like, hey, maybe a center align, maybe an image orientation, how about FreeBSD support, not demanding these features, just saying, hey, that would be a cool thing to do, maybe think about it, and when there are comments, it's sort of just doing a bit of back and forth about how this could be done and things like that. It's the closed issues that are a little more interesting. Now, I wouldn't call any of what I've seen in here harassment, but what I can say is there is a lot of people basically asking for free support. The GitHub issue tracker is supposed to be for requesting features, for discussing features, for reporting bugs and things like this. It is not for you to go to start asking the developer how to set up the application when the documentation is available. It's one thing if the documentation is lacking and maybe that can be improved, but when it is clearly laid out what you need to do and you just didn't read it, this is not the place to go. And there's a lot of issues in here that sort of fit into that category. And this isn't a new thing for just Ueberzug. Basically, any FOSS project is going to have to deal with this. And the bigger the project, the more people that are going to be doing this. These two are really great examples. A video tutorial for FZF integration. I learned about your project from Luke Smith and DistroTube. Do you think you could record a video tutorial how to integrate Ueberzug with FZF's preview option? And the dev did help him out, but he's not going to make a video. This dev just seems to be a really nice person. And the other one, running Ueberzug on the terminal. I couldn't find a way to use Ueberzug directly on terminal. A better wiki is much appreciated, or I'm missing something. I try Ueberzug layer path to the image, and then he's like, this is not how you use it. Ueberzug is a daemon program, which the documentation was clearly saying. I can understand from the user perspective why these issues would be made, but this is not what an issue tracker is supposed to be used for. Now, one other thing that really kind of confuses me is what he means by harassed and insulted at some third-party sites. I've gone back through the recent Google history, the recent Brave history, things like that, and I can't find that many references to Ueberzug, let alone negative references. There have been like a couple of YouTube videos here and there, and I went back to check on the older videos from Luke, DT, myself, and all of that fun stuff, just to see if there was like people being negative in those comment sections. And sure, there were some people saying, hey, there's this issue with Ueberzug and it's crashing for some reason, but I wouldn't really call any of that harassment. What might enlighten me to what he means by this, though, is the thing that he changed on his profile's bio. Now, most of this is just expanding upon what he already said. The issue tab is not your free support platform. Sharing coding does not mean that I'm interested in 1. Helping you learn Bash, Python, whatever. 2. Help you use basic tools like pip. 3. Help you to debug issues caused by your customizations and configurations. 4. Citing the documentation as you're too lazy to read it. 5. Fixing issues which does not bother or affect me. 6. I forgot how many fingers I had, and so on. But this final part gives me a bit of a clue. A disabled issue tab does not mean just create an issue in some of my other projects. So Ueberzug isn't the only project that CB runs. Now, Ueberzug is by far the biggest, but it does have some other little things like this script for Qt Browser, Chameleon, this color picker, his dot files, a FZF interface, and a bunch of other things. Now, I would love to be able to show you these Ueberzug issues created on these other projects, but I can't do that. And I'm not saying the dev is lying and this just didn't happen. I can't do that because none of them have been archived on the Wayback Machine. Ueberzug is vastly more popular than any of these projects, and while some of these have been archived, they're archived from back in 2019 when the Ueberzug issue tracker was still open, so it doesn't really help us in this regard. And all of these projects, besides the ones that are just a fork of another project, have had the exact same thing done to them. All of their issue trackers and pull requests are closed, and they've all been archived. Now, most of them don't have a README attached to them, they've just had all of the files deleted, but basically the same thing is being done to them. So I can't exactly go back and check what is going on. So I sort of just have to take the dev at their word, and considering that they've pretty much just left the FOSS space, it seems pretty reasonable to assume that that's actually what was happening. And honestly, it's not really too surprising, because it's very easy to forget that the FOSS space, free software, open source software, whatever you want to call it, while it does have some major projects like GIMP, like Blender, like Critter, like the Linux kernel, which are run by large groups or in some cases a company, the vast majority of projects you see on places like GitHub, GitLab, all things like that, are made by a single person. Some of them might have commits from various other people like, hey, I'm going to address this feature, I'm going to deal with that bug, and things like that. But for the most part, the project is run by a single person, and that person is a volunteer. And in many cases, they made the tool because they wanted to use it themselves. So you aren't really entitled to updates, to support, to any bug fixes, anything like that, or even 1 second of their time. Now, I don't do much in the way of development, but I have released some of the scripts that I use onto my GitHub. And every so often someone will report an issue saying, hey, I would like this feature added. And I don't write the scripts to update them, I write them to do what I need them to do. And if I don't need that feature, I'm never going to add it. If you want to go and make a pull request, maybe I'll do it. But even so, I don't ever have to add it. And this problem gets bigger and bigger and bigger the bigger your project is. And when you're running a project like Ueberzug, which a lot of people in the minimal Arch, Void, Gentoo space know about, I can only imagine that a lot of people are asking you for things to be done, and many of them aren't actually doing it themselves. Now, that does not mean that you shouldn't report bugs, or you shouldn't ask for new features, or you shouldn't make pull requests. All of those things are great to do, but you also shouldn't expect those things to be dealt with in a timely manner, or in some cases, ever dealt with. Now, I can't say if the dev is fully stepping away from FOSS forever, are just temporarily stepping away to take a bit of a break, or they're just stepping away from this persona and are gonna start doing some other things under a different handle. I don't know. Either way, what I can say right now is Ueberzug is basically just dead in the water. One thing that is slightly annoying me, though, is the way they went about doing the archival. GitHub has an archive feature built into it, which they have used for some of their other projects in the past, which basically just says, hey, this project is archived, and then nothing is going to happen with it. By pushing this new commit, though, it's going to break any of the Git packages that are available. Now, luckily on Arch Linux, it's already moved into the standard repos, so that's not really that big of a deal. But I know other distros might have Git packages as well, and that is kind of annoying. Now, the fact that tags still exist and the commit still exists means you can go and fix it, but it is going to at least be temporarily broken. Now, I don't use Ueberzug anymore, and I haven't for quite a long time, probably at least a good, year or so. But I know there is a lot of people out there who really care about this project. And if you want to see it keep going, not just being, completely dead, someone step up and take over. Don't wait for someone else to do it. If you want the project to keep going, this isn't like the Linux kernel. It's not this giant project that isn't really sustainable by a single person. At the scale that it's at, a single person can run it because a single person was already doing so. It might take a bit of time to get used to the code base, but once you do so, you should be good to go. And also, I wish the best for the original developer, and if you ever feel like coming back to the FOSS space, the door is always going to be open, whether it's taking up Ueberzug again or doing something entirely new. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Do you use Ueberzug? Have you never heard of it? Are you going to miss it now that it's gone? I would love to know. And obviously, it's still going to keep working for the time being. It's just a matter of sometime in the future, it's probably going to break. So let me know your thoughts down below. And if you like this video, remember to go and like the video. And if you really like the video and you want to become one of these amazing people over here, go check out my Patreon, subscribe, and Robertson linked in the description down below. I've got a podcast called Tech Over Tea. I've got a gaming channel called Brodie Robertson Plays. That's going to be it for me, and I'm out.